finish this presentation before the break. So object attributes, of course, are right here. Now, just another reminder that when we say local attribute or object attribute or static class level attribute, it doesn't matter whether they are private or public, because I could have made this owner ID sequence a public data member, static data member of this class, and then the entire program has direct access to it, which is probably making it even worse, opening even more possibilities for misuse of this particular owner ID sequence static integer, right? But you should realize that in this designation of class level, object level, or local attribute, the private or public doesn't play any role. It's just a matter of where it's being declared. At the class level as static, at the class level as non-static, or inside a method. So instantly everything inside the method, of course, is private, because there's no way the life cycle of this thing ends as soon as the method execution is finished. All right, but those things can be private or public, and in general that includes static data. Most of the time you do want to keep the data private in your class. It's just, if it's not private, you should ask yourself, why is it not private? Why is it exactly that it's not private? If the data piece, whether static or not, how come it's not private inside my class? What is the true validation of that design decision? Right? So, and most of the time the answer is there's something wrong with the design, because they should be private. All right, moving on. Well, I'll give you an example. Sometimes people it's almost the time to release an application and give it to a customer, and that customer insists on a brand new feature. Say, please add this feature right now, we're just dying without it, we didn't realize it early on, please do it for us. And you say, all right, if we just and that could be, by the way, access to this owner ID sequence from different places of our user interface. And we just say, well, you know what, we really don't want to change too much code, let's make this public and comment this properly and have different parts of our program access directly this data piece. I don't know if it's a good example, but it could be a compromise of some sort, because someone insists, management makes a decision, you as a programmer get that permission, you should resist, you say, oh, I really don't like this type of change, but they tell you, do it. And then you say, okay. So it's essentially a bit of a compromise can be done to minimize the amount of coding, make them public, and go against public data. But then later on, perhaps in the next version of your project, you should redo this once again and make sure it becomes properly done, and that you're using private data all the way through. Yes,
Kevin, what's the difference between like a public int that's within a class and a global?
Good question. What really is the difference? The difference is this. Let me make this public. And perhaps this was done by mistake. I copied and pasted this line from some sample or somewhere, and it should be private, but it just happened to be public for no reason. The problem is right here. This is not a problem. Inside a class, nothing has changed. Everything will continue to compile and run as before, because this is really just a signal to the compiler. Okay, this is a public or this is a private. So, but then the real problem is when someone's using it. That's what they can do then. They can just say, license, where is this? What is the name of it? License. where is, no, there is no prompt right here. Let me just say license owner's owner ID sequence, right? I could say set it equals 0, right? Because it's public this time. So you probably, someone that whoever is coding the main method, it's not you, it's someone else. They mistook, they looked at this public data attribute, and they now can say, okay, all right, I can now make this change directly. And by the way, let me make sure that the style that I use compiles. All right, so it compiles. I just want to show you one more thing. Most of the time, you should prefer this syntax. Just use the class name. Let me get rid of this breakpoint because there's too much colors on the screen. Toggle breakpoint. All right, so right here, the owner's ID sequence shared data attribute right here was updated by using an instance name, such as license. The license variable name represents a reference variable to one of the driver license classes. But it is so this is a direct change to the static method using one of the instance variables. The second choice to this is to use the name of the class to refer to the owner ID sequence, to refer to the static method. But precisely those two lines here do exactly the same thing, right? Most programmers prefer this. This is preferred. Use class name when you talk to static data attributes, or for that matter also static methods inside your class. But to answer your question, Cameron, is exactly this: that you don't want this to happen. You don't want to overexpose anything from your class. You should be as conservative as possible to concentrate on your work inside your class and say, no. Whenever possible, I will not allow kind of leak of anything that's supposed to be private, recklessly provide public access to it. Because once people start using it, you could say, well, you shouldn't have done that. Did you see that it's a static data? You should have used the method to access the data. Well, they say, excuse us, it's not our fault, it's your fault. You said public, we thought because you said it's public, that's the best way to use it. And they have a point. So from that perspective, you should keep your things private as much as possible, which then of course will make it impossible now to to do this. So if I try to compile this, once again, of course, this should fail, and it says error, private access, blah blah blah, and then they may say, well, we still need to do this, and then if that's the case, maybe if you want to provide them to the owner ID, and this is the method that you want to keep for that particular purpose, then you could make this public. That's better. That is better, because look, you still control everything that happens here. And look, only by looking at these comments, you suddenly realize, oh wow, that a lot of things is going on with respect to this particular data attribute. It's a static, it needs to be protected, there's all kind of stuff. So if I'm a programmer and trying to use this class, I really don't want to mess with anything that's highlighted here. Let me just make a call to this method, end of story. Okay, I don't want to be involved in your business, and I don't want to be responsible for anything that you do in that method. Okay, it's your business, you understand it better, you have this to-do comment, whatever else you do, you own it, it's yours. I want to be focused on my things. I try to use this, so I may tell you I seem to need this access to get owner ID, so maybe can you make it public? And they may say yes, and then I'm done, right? So that's the essentially the ethics around those decisions. But the bottom line, anything that should be private, including methods, they should be private. They should not be exposed in any way. All right, let's take a break. Sounds like we could be ready for a break.